Welcome everybody. I'm just going to quickly get the guy up from ChronoForge. Give me 2 seconds. There you go, mate. You should be able to speak now. Do you want to just check?
Yeah, how are we going?
How you doing, mate? Yeah, just give it a few seconds. Let people join up. Yeah, how are you today?
Doing good. It's a wonderful 10 p.m. here after a big day of testing and yeah, just getting everything all sorted for our play test this weekend.
Yeah, well, it looks amazing. I've been obviously after our conversation yesterday, I've done a bit more research. It looks really good, so I'm looking forward to trying it myself, to be honest. But yeah, all right, so let me just make sure it's all recorded now. So we've got the like a team member from ChronoForge here today. Are you actually the CEO or are you the developer?
I'm the CEO, and I was actually the first developer as well. So I did all the original coding way back when, and obviously we grew into a much bigger team. But yeah, these days I'm the CEO, but I do get my hands pretty dirty on the game dev side, and still do a little bit of blockchain stuff here and there, and a bit of AI engineering for some stuff that we haven't yet announced. But yeah, bit of everything still. It's a very busy job.
Yeah, it's amazing. I think I found one of your other developers and I've seen a video and he's doing like AR virtual reality, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. So Westy is a AR and VR developer. So he used to make stuff for Saudi Aramco, Pepsi, those kind of big brands. And I was an AI engineer actually for 8 years before setting up Minted Loot and ChronoForge. And we actually just sort of put our two different skill sets together. And I built a system we're calling Mind Tome, which basically means we can potentially give every single character in the game an in-depth AI personality, and a whole like backstory, the ability to generate quests, secret puzzles with memories. They've got like hidden memories buried that you have to sort of unlock through interrogation. These sort of things. So I combined that AI with his AR features, and it meant that we could basically have this little AR projected person in your, your room or your living room or your garden, and just like chat to them, sort of a little bit chat GTP style, but have them in character, have them be a real adventurer in the world of Terra, and stick to that world lore, which is pretty cool. So we're excited about that. That's not like fully funded. That's something that we developed well after we did our initial mint, and it just happens to be that we had that skill set in house when that technology really took another leap forward over the last 18 months. But it does mean, for the future, that's something that's really going to potentially help us distinguish ourselves from other players on the market who, might be traditional game studios but don't have that in-house AI and AR expertise that we happen to have.
Yeah, it looks amazing to be honest. And one of my good friends, Dan, was the person that introduced me to you. And obviously, I've got a lot of trust for this guy, and I know he's really excited about like the future of your project as well. So I am glad that he introduced us. So do you want to just give a brief, like but how did you get into crypto and what why did you decide to make this project? Was it always going to be Web3 or was you going to do it like Web2, but you decided to do Web3?
Yeah, so myself and the first other founder, Rudy, we were actually just inspired by the Loot project, which people may not remember. This is sort of way back in around August, September of 2021. There were these guys who'd made a collection that was just like names of fantasy weapons and gear and stuff, like making a list of items from an MMORPG, and they just made this list of items without any artwork at all, and they just minted them as NFTs. And what was cool was a bunch of other people, unrelated, organically started engaging with that and coming up with like their own artwork for it and thinking of games and trying to make games that interacted with that project. And I sort of just like that totally organic, uh, almost like open source sort of approach to we can use blockchain to create these decentralized applications and games and this whole new wave of innovation. So I was excited by that initially. That's what we that's what got me looking at the NFT side. I've been trading sort of crypto back in maybe like 2016, 2017, along with a lot of people. So I've been looking at white papers and stuff for a long time. Was reasonably familiar, but that was the moment where I said I'm actually going to sit down and learn, Solidity and get to know like really how the NFT space works. And we knew we wanted to make a game. That was pretty clear. Like for us, we wanted to see if this technology can actually do a better job than what you get out of games like WoW, where it was basically forbidden to trade your items, forbidden to trade your characters. That was a crime that would get you banned. We thought that was a bit unfair. And we wanted to create games where you could trade your characters and trade your items, and potentially even other games or other game studios could add value to your IP and use those same items in their games as well. So that's something like longer term we'd like to see as well, taking the ChronoForge assets and actually letting other people develop with the IP, but using those same NFTs. So more than one game for the one asset collection. So that's like the real long term vision. But in the medium term, we wanted to at least make one great game. And so that's how we got started with ChronoForge, which originally were called PX Quest, but we rebranded once we sort of figured out our world lore to something more appropriate to the world lore and the theme and the style we were going for.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. And just for like people that have joined, like I know how it all used to work. Like, do you know, like with Diablo and all WoW and stuff like that, people used to work, people used to go on there for like 15 hours a day. And then if they wanted to sell their items and stuff like that, then like you just said, they get banned. So this, in my opinion, is always going to be more attractive for like, Web 2 players. So how are you planning to get the Web 2 players in? Because obviously there isn't, crypto is good, but it isn't big enough, in my opinion, to have a game like WoW at the moment. So, how are you planning to get like normal Web 2 players involved without having NFTs?
Yeah, I totally agree, and that like crypto and Web3 is not enough to reach the sort of scale that makes like a multiplayer RPG work. And if it's not clear to anyone that's just jumping in, the style of game is a multiplayer action RPG. So Chronoforge has 12 different combat classes. Everyone hops into dungeons. There's a big overworld. You raid together. It's very like that sort of World of Warcraft feel. Without explicitly calling ourselves an MMO, we're probably not that sort of scale of world, but we are definitely doing that hard multiplayer raiding vibe. And yeah, to get those games to work, you need a lot of people. And from day one, we were really clear with the community that we were going to make room for Web 2 people by ensuring that we didn't go too vicious on the sort of Web 3 mechanics, that everything was quite understandable and accessible. And the chief strategy there was that we made sure everything Web 3 was opt-in. So folks will be able to find our game on the Epic Games Store. They will be able to play it for free. They will be able to purchase items if they want to with fiat. They never actually have to engage with the Web3 elements if they don't want to, if they're not familiar with it. If they do want to engage with the Web3 elements, we have non-custodial wallets, so they can just use an email address. They don't have to pay gas when they mint their first item, so there's no risk and need to go sign up on an exchange, which is a massive barrier with projects that's, let's say they're based on Polygon and they got Matic. That's a huge barrier, right? You got to go get Matic and learn how that whole process works. So we didn't want to do that. That's why we went with Immutable X as our layer 2. So our Genesis collection is on mainnet, but all the items that we produce in the game during gameplay, that's all on Immutable X, and that doesn't cost you anything. That's just airdropped to you straight away. Those assets can be migrated to mainnet if you want to take them to mainnet. So we're still fully supporting what the Web3 people normally want. They want to be able to eventually pull stuff to mainnet. But for the Web 2 folks coming in, it's like, hey, here's this thing. You don't have to engage with it at all if you don't want to. But once you get a couple of valuable items in the game, you realize, oh, I might want to trade them. And then we've got this really easy, stepping path up to actually creating your first NFT with these non-custodial wallets, no gas, no upfront costs, no sort of complication to the process.
That is really smart, to be honest, mate. And I actually think that's going to be like absolutely massive for you guys because end of the day, you know what it's like. Even some people that's been in crypto for a long time still struggle with like Uniswap and So yeah, hats off to you. That'll easily, you know, making it so you don't have to be involved in crypto is it's going to make them want to get involved because obviously if they find an item which is worth a few $100s they're going to want they're going to want to claim their money, aren't they? So really you're helping the evolution of crypto in a way.
Yeah, like I think anyone, once you're really into one of these games, that's the time to start then having the conversation about Web3. So we deliberately didn't make a project that had like a really complex Web3 economy. Like it's quite straightforward. It's just the characters and the items and the mounts and the pets are NFTs. We haven't thrown a currency in there yet, because we really want people to just be able to jump in and play the game and not have to read this white paper, not have to read about 3 or 4 different currencies they need to buy just to play. Like it's not even like Genshin Impact. That's a Web2 game, but it's got like a bit of a friction because of that. So the resource economy, even on a Web2 sense, is pretty straightforward. So people jump in, they play the game for a week, they start to love the game, and that's when they get these good items, and we start giving them just like little prompts like here and there, like, hey, by the way, if you want to trade this, you can turn it into an NFT. So it's a really gentle introduction when you're ready for the conversation, instead of like someone coming on the internet, they've just discovered your game and then suddenly learn, oh, I have to learn all this crypto stuff I never knew about just to play. That's when they switch off and bail. So we didn't want to have that interaction. We wanted to have a real warm introduction by getting them in the game first, playing the game, and then have that opt-in sort of workflow. Yeah, so that's the strategy. The other side of things, apart from just like UX accessibility, is we just made sure we designed a game that looked and played as good and felt as fun as a really good Web2 game. Like that's the other big side of accessibility that I think a lot of other Web3 games didn't quite get right, is they built a game that was maybe, let's say, good enough for Web3, which we could have gone a minimalist route and built a pixel art game, and a lot of people in our community early on thought we should have just stuck with building a little pixel art game, and that would have been fine for Web3, and it could have been turn-based, it could have been really simple mechanics, and again, that would have been fine for Web3, but I think that would have disappeared over the horizon. In 6 months people would get bored of that, and Web2 people, on the other hand, wouldn't feel passionate about that kind of game. So instead we took a big risk, and we really we've spent all of our development budget. I haven't gone home with any cash. I've been working for free for 2 years on the project. We took a big risk, and we're spending everything on building the highest fidelity game we could, that was 3D, that looked like a modern game. It's in Unreal Engine. It has the scope, the scale, and the complexity of a real Web2 multiplayer action RPG. We've got like 12 combat classes. We have all kinds of different enemies with smart mechanics, different worlds, different time periods. We've gone that full hog because I think that's the only type of game that Web2 players are really going to bite at. It has to look like a great game. Just from that 30-second trailer from the beginning, you have to feel it's great. So like our art style, you can see, really stands out. The art quality really stands out. That's part of accessibility in my mind. And I think there's a few games that have done a really good job of that, like Illuvium, Big Time, a few others, but not heaps. And I think that's maybe held back Web3 a little bit.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like, I'm not being funny. I've seen quite a lot of projects, and they're literally, it's all about, it's all about making money. It's all about trading, where Web2 players aren't looking for that. And in my opinion, the money is in Web2 at the moment. Don't you know what I mean? There isn't enough people. Like a lot of people I know are trying different stuff, but they haven't got the user base to actually to scale. Whereas because you're doing it this way, I think this is the first time I've actually heard of this really. And honestly, I do think it's going to be massive because I seen your trailer the other day, well yesterday. It's like the dragon flying over the world, and honestly, it looks absolutely amazing. I can't wait to actually give it a go. To be fair, mate, it really does look good.
Yeah, that's the why we want to give folks. And yeah, like because the Web2 quality is there, it also means we can monetize in a Web2 way. If Web3, has a really bearish year or two, then we will still be resilient against that because we have fiat revenue streams as an option. because we've made it a game that's able to be played in an entirely Web 2 way as well. So I think being a hybrid game, some people might call us a hybrid game, is definitely the way to go long term, because you're just so much more resilient to these ups and downs. And when Web3 is pumping, you get the highs. When it's not so pumping, you can at least rely on those Web2 revenue streams to keep you going. And also just the scale of people who are interested in your assets, that's ultimately way more sustainable than any other like overhyped, overcomplicated Web3 token economy. Like the only thing that's going to keep asset values up long term is people actually using the assets. That means the game has to have good utility. The game has to be good. So we focus first on a great game, and then great utility for the assets in the game. And then the economy sort of takes care of itself, because people want to hold stuff that plays well, that plays fun.
Yeah, that's amazing. That is. Honestly, really looking forward to it. I'm just going to say, whoever's in the main Telegram group now, I've got a few more questions to ask first, but we're going to pick a few questions from our Telegram group, and we're going to
Yeah.
tip them some main. So whoever's in the Telegram group, if they want to ask a question about the game, feel free, and I'll be picking some in about 5-10 minutes. But I just wanted another question I've got for you is how many team members have you got at the moment, and how will the economy work for you guys? Like, how will you make money? Will you get like a percentage of the royalties for the NFTs, or how will it work?
Yeah, sure. So, first question is about 30 people working on the game at any one time. So we had a sort of core group of about 20 who are like the same solid 20, and then you end up rotating in different sorts of contractors for different sorts of problems, whether it be like art or like technical art or just programming. So yeah, it's about 30 people at any one point in time. And we've managed to do that with a reasonably modest budget for like a game, a couple of million, just by using the folks in our region. So we're sort of centered in Australia, but we have a lot of our workforce coming out of Malaysia and Indonesia, rather than basing ourselves in like trendy San Francisco or the EU. It's way more cost efficient to develop games down here if you're leveraging Southeast Asia. And I think the VCs and game studios have started to wake up to that, and see that you actually can get quality results out here. You just have to spend a little longer and hunt a little more for the talent. So yeah, that's the team side. And as I said, that also includes like the founding team, which are not game developers. Myself, an AI engineer, Ben's an augmented reality engineer, and Rudy, who's our operations guy, comes from also working with big tech companies. So none of us were originally game developers, but we did end up partnering with Amberbox Studios of Malaysia as well. So they were already an Unreal Engine focused studio, and they gave us a big head start in terms of getting going quickly on development and learning a lot more about the game development process as engineers. So that's the team side. On the monetization side, so our game, as I said, we have a Web 2 revenue model as well as the Web 3 revenue model. So the Web 2 revenue model is basically folks can use an in-game sort of server-based currency if they want to unlock classes quickly. So when you first play the game, you get access to 6 of the 12 classes, a bit like Genshin Impact. And you can unlock more classes as you play. And if you're a bit lazy and you just want to unlock them faster, then you can buy some of this sort of server-based currency. We also have like cosmetics, pets, traits that are sort of like both personality traits for your character and have small statistical buffs. All these little things you can unlock. So it's mostly sort of a cosmetic shop with also class progression in there. And so yeah, we have that Web 2 stream, and then on the Web 3 side, we sold our initial collection now like 2 years ago almost, and that did really well for us. But we're probably not going to be trying to pump our Web3 bags directly for some time. We do get some royalties, but most people have opted out. I think 95% of trades that we see now do not opt in. So that sort of bargain the consumer made with us a long time ago, that's been broken. And for that reason, we have to look at the Web 2 streams a lot more. We sort of prioritize them in the medium term a bit more. But I can definitely see, as crypto recovers and as NFTs recovers, then you might see us do new exclusive sales of particular sorts of assets. It might not be adventurers, it might not be characters, it might be that we do player housing in the form of airships, it might be new exclusive mounts or new exclusive cosmetics, but very limited edition NFT sales you might see in future. And we do still have the opportunity to potentially mint a token as well, like a currency-based token, I should say, if we want to use that as part of the gatekeeping on NFT production. So there's a few options there, but the base, like the bulk of it's probably going to be that Web2 revenue, to be honest.
Yeah, that's and to be honest, that's where the money is. Like I said, in games, the money is in Web 2. So, and like you just said, the more people you bring in from Web 2 is actually going to benefit the Web 3 NFT holders because
Yeah.
obviously, like you just said, if people want to buy the item, then they have to come onto Web 3. So yeah, that's honestly, it's really clever to be honest. I did have one more question before going into the group. Um, like post launch, what major features have you got planned, and what marketing are you going to be doing? Are you like streamers? Are you going to get streamers involved, or are you doing Web 2 marketing or Web 3? How are you planning on doing it?
Yeah, so it's probably worth talking a bit more about the game at this stage because everyone is doing streaming based marketing now. Like that's like a given. Of course, we'll like reach out to streamers and we'll use our social networks. I think the key actually now to distinguishing yourselves in terms of your marketing strategy is to build game mechanics that are inherently marketable, that are inherently great for streaming and big moments and virality. And so that's what we've done. So we actually have a mechanic in our game, which is quite unlike most multiplayer action RPGs out there, in which the collective decisions of players will make or break the world week to week. So what I mean by this is instead of having a bunch of cities that are filled with NPCs and those are your crafting hubs, our game has 12 flying trading companies, and those are governed by the players. And those trading companies are where you do all your crafting. That's where you vendor. That's where you get your best gear. And so you join one of these 12 trading companies. They're a bit like a huge guild, and you build them up. You build the infrastructure. You get better gear, and then you actually start to engage in a bit of conflict with the other companies. And you get to this top tier where you build this thing called a ChronoForge, right? Which that was the game's named after. The ChronoForge is like your top tier smelting facility. It literally bends time a little bit. But there's a big catch in this game, and that's if too many of these ChronoForges get turned on. So if too many of these flying settlements turn on their ChronoForge at the same time, it causes a global environmental collapse, i.e., a wipe of everyone's settlement. So there's this global prisoner's dilemma, which is actually it's an analogy for the carbon emissions dilemma, where we're all trying to keep down our carbon emissions, but there's this like selfish this incentive to behave like selfishly and try to keep emitting carbon. Where every state sort of wants to get away with it, emitting as much as they can, but we all need to actually keep it down, or we sort of wipe. That same process plays out in our game, and every week players go to their trading company and they vote on what their trading company is going to do. Are they going to try to turn on their ChronoForge and selfishly try to go for the best gear and access endgame content at the risk of wiping the globe if too many
This space was downloaded via spacesdown.com. Visit to download your spaces today.
settlements do the same thing? Are they going to attack another settlement, or are they going to actually vote to try to ban this technology altogether, which is a big sacrifice, right, in the name of sustainability? So there's this dilemma and this big event every week. It's sort of like, crack for streamers. You have this potential apocalyptic event that people tune into once a week. They come back to the game. The streamers, are there as we count down the clock till the voting closes and the event happens, and gets everyone hyped every week. So we have not just this mechanic, but a bunch of others, that encourage people to bring their friends to come back to stream it. And yeah, of course, we'll be hitting up the big streamers as much as we can to get that out there. But designing a game that is streamable, that has mechanics that will go viral, that's been what we're focusing on, making sure that just organically this game is going to be something you want to talk to your friends about. And you imagine every week everyone's going to be like engaging in a bit of intrigue, trying to talk to the other guys in the other settlement, finding out what they're planning to do. Are they going to attack? Are they going to turn on their forge? Everyone's going to be jumping in the Discord, trying to team up and come up with strategies. Who knows what they're going to do, offline to try to convince people to do what they want. And that creates like really sticky social circles. If you jump into our Discord, you can see we've already got like a pretty buzzing, enthusiastic community. But you can imagine with a game like this actually running, that's just going to go to a whole another level.
It sounds amazing, mate. So, when you first start the game, do you get put into a settlement, or like do you pick who you're with, or is it automatically, or can you change?
So there's a pretty fun mechanic there. So just like the trading companies of the days of East India Trading Company, like a real corporation, you get to choose what trading company you're trying to join, but there is a share price you have to pay in-game resources to join that trading company. And if a trading company is already really well developed, so their airship has a lot of really good infrastructure, they already got a heap of people in that trading company, then the share price, the resources you have to put in to be able to join that, go up. And if that trading company is really pretty weak and struggling, it's actually really low share price. It's easy for you to jump in. And so what that does is it naturally redistributes new players to the sort of weaker settlements, and we end up with sort of an equilibrium. So each settlement will be sort of roughly as powerful and as populated as the next one over time. There'll be little ebbs and flows, but that share price is basically a fancy piece of economics to keep that roughly in equilibrium and keep the contest really tight and exciting week to week.
Oh, hats off to you, mate. Honestly, it sounds absolutely amazing. Obviously, I only found out about you like yesterday or the day before, and I'm actually really excited about this now. It sounds really amazing. Um, all right. Do you want me to get a few questions? I've had quite a lot of questions in my group. Do you want me
Yeah,
to? Yeah. All
yeah,
right.
yeah. Yeah.
2 seconds. All right then. The first one is, what strategies have you implemented to ensure long-term success and sustainability for the project?
Yeah, so I think like our focus first of all on like the gameplay being central and having to be great, on having Web 2 players being able to get into the game in large numbers, and so you can hit player scale. That's obviously key to sustainability. Economy side, we've not pumped out a cryptocurrency straight up. We are wanting to see how our game economy plays out with purely server-based assets first. And that means that we have a lot of flexibility to balance the economy, and that's where we've seen a lot of Web3 games go wrong and sort of die in terms of sustainability. Your Axie Infinities, where they sort of put out a cryptocurrency before they understood their own game economy, and that led to hyperinflation and collapse of that economy. So we've basically done things in such a way that we've got flexibility. We can pull out a cryptocurrency later if we want to, or we can keep it purely server based. But we have that option, and we still got that door open. We can still pull those levers and keep the economy really nicely balanced. So I think that's sort of going to be key. It's like get players because your game's great. Keep the players because you've got scale. We've got good mechanics in terms of that week to week excitement. We've got randomized dungeons, so you get a lot of replay out of the one dungeon. It changes shape. You get different enemies in different spots and different levels of difficulty, and with a bunch of mini bosses as well. So we get a lot of replay. That's obviously key in the medium term. And yeah, we've got these week to week events that bring people back. Week after week, month after month, just to try to get their revenge on that other settlement, or to try to access the top gear by turning on their ChronoForge. So we actually draw up like a big Excel sort of spreadsheet, and we literally analyze like after hour one, why does someone come back? After day one, why does someone come back? After week one, why do they come back? After month one, why do they come back? After year one, why do they come back? And we have a mechanic and a strategy, both marketing and gameplay, focused on each of those sort of key time periods or time frames. How do we retain people? So yeah, but you're welcome to obviously to get into detail on any of those mechanics. But our guide also has a heap of info on this sort of stuff.
Yeah, that's a great answer. So, do you start at like level one, and then you get XP for like killing different do
Yep.
you know what I mean? Is that how it
Yeah.
works?
So there's like the traditional, World of Warcraft style progression. So you start at level one, you can kill some guys, then you realize that, oh wow, those next guys, they're too tough for me, I need better gear. And so you collect resources by killing those lower level guys and going to the overworld and playing harvesting mini games. We've got a whole lot of funky like resource gathering mini games like fishing and sort of lumbering, and but all of them are like dynamic. So it's not like the classic, like I'm just going to walk up to a tree and click once and I harvest the material. Everything's got like a sort of skill-based element to it. You got to like swing the axe in the right way. You got to fish in the right way. You got to hunt that boar down. So you got all these funky like resource gathering mini games, and you get the resources, and then you go to your settlement, and you want to upgrade your gear, and you might even upgrade the settlement as well, so you can get a better vendor who gives you even better recipes. You get even better gear, and now you're like a superhero, and now you go back to the dungeon and you take down those tougher guys, and that's the progression loop, right? It's like the classic action RPG progression loop, but with this added spice that your settlement could be wiped out at any time, and that's obviously like your best crafting facility. So you've got this like global meta playing this bigger progression loop amidst your individual sort of progression meta.
Honestly, it sounds absolutely amazing. 'Cause I used to play like the old school games like Diablo 2, and don't get me wrong, even though they're addictive to play, they did get boring because obviously the dungeons were like exactly the same, everything was in the same place all the time. So to be able to do it this way and have things randomized and stuff like that, it's like it's really good, mate. It's really good.
And
All
there's
right.
one more piece I probably should mention, which is if launch goes well, we've been saying to the community for a long time what our key next development priority would be, and that's PvP. So there's nothing more interesting than the dynamism of playing against a human, right? A human's always more interesting and more varied in its tactics than any AI we can put in a dungeon. So we'd really like to do PvP modes in our dungeons where, as you're running through doing the dungeon, some of those enemies are controlled by human players, some of those enemies are regular AIs, and there's a whole progression path for those people playing as the enemy as well. So it's not like a regular PvP battleground. It's still a traditional dungeon. You're still trying to complete objectives. There's still large numbers of enemies, but some of those are way smarter because they're humans and they're doing more interesting things and they've got their own sort of ambitions. And you get that other side of the story. You're going to learn a lot more about some of these civilizations and maybe not see them quite as the bad guy as the first pass through the story would have you believe. So that's our first priority. If we have a successful launch and we get in strong revenue or we get funding before then, that would be the next cab off the rank in terms of major development.
Yeah, sounds good. I used to love PvP. That's my favorite part, to be honest. Great job. All right, the next question. We have touched base on this a little bit, but do you want to just? He says, how do they access the game, and do we need the token to play? I think you've already said you haven't got a token at the moment, but how will people access your game for the testing, and do they need anything like? Do they need to hold an NFT to play, or how did it work?
Yeah, so for the play test, you don't need to hold anything. Literally, just jump in our Discord. We're going to drop the link on US EST 7 p.m. Saturday night. So that's the 21st. There'll just be a link. You'll download the build, and you can play our first sort of public playtest build. You don't need to hold anything because it's really just we really believe strongly that our game's a good game, and that people, once they actually get their hands on it, are gonna be like, shit, these guys are actually delivering. They're delivering something of a really high quality, not just for Web3 but for Web2. So we just want people to play it, and we think once they play it, they'll be red hot keen, and then they'll look to buy assets just because they can see the long term value. In terms of after the playtest, like when we actually launch, same deal. The game's actually free to play. You can find it on the Epic Games Store. It will be, just a regular sort of download. But we do have the Adventurer NFTs. So what they are like characters that we pre-sold, a year and a half ago, and those are still doing well. And they are exclusive races with exclusive racial buffs and some extra, basically a mix of rarer equipment by default equipped than your standard character. So, if people want to play as a bear, then they're always going to have to buy the NFT because the bear is only available as an adventurer NFT. Whereas some of the other, they're all kinds of crazy animal races that we have. We really wanted to go for this like poppy, more positive vibe than the very like angsty, macabre sort of vibe of your Diablos and a lot of the recent RPGs. But yeah, you can get any of these crazy animal characters as a token. If you want to now, that's like on OpenSea or Blur or whatever. And we also have mounts, we also have pets, and we will have a prospecting deed, which is sort of like our land that will be minting fairly soon. But that's not minting with ETH, it's minting with Chronos, which is a currency that the adventurers produce. So it all kind of rotates around the adventurer characters that are on OpenSea at the moment. But yeah, you don't need to buy anything now to play a playtest. Like, just jump in, let us know what you think. We're here to build a great game. That's our focus, rather than like shill you a token now. We would love to earn some revenue off people later, but we know that the way to do that is to just build a great game and build the user base, build the sustainability, and the rest takes care of itself.
Yeah, that's a great answer. Because at the end of the day, a lot of people, they sell the token, and then they have literally, they don't do any work, and it just flops before it even launches. So whereas what you're doing is you're actually you've developed an amazing game, and then obviously looking at end of the day, you'd be lying if you said you weren't doing it to make a revenue, because that's what people do. But at the end of the day, you're doing it the right way, because obviously you've actually built something amazing. And then obviously once people see how good the game is, and obviously the users growing, and that's when you can start monetizing on that. So yeah, hats off to you, mate. Really good. So how how many classes did you say? Like, how many NFTs are there? And will it be limited supply, or can you? It's hard to explain what I mean.
Yeah,
Um,
I'll break it down for you. So there were 7,500 Genesis Adventure NFTs, and those came in 10 exclusive races. So those 10 races will never be minted again. There's only ever going to be the 7,500 of them. And they also come with a bunch of rare gear already equipped. That's not the only time you'll see that rare gear. It's possible to get some of that rare gear in game, but it's certainly hard, right? But the races, that's it. That's the limited supply. You'll never see those races again. And yeah, in terms of sorry, I forget the second half of the question. There was 7,500 of those. I think that sort of cleared up what you wanted to know. Oh, classes. That was the other thing. Yeah, so we have 12 combat classes, which is a little bit crazy for like a smaller game studio, because most games go with like 4 to 5. I think even World of Warcraft might have only have launched with 10, if I'm not crazy, if my memory serves me well. But yeah, we're going with 12 because we think that is going to play really well in terms of replayability, to try out all the different combat classes. And also long term for PvP, that's going to be amazing. All the different combinations you can get with those 12 different classes. And those aren't exclusive. Like, they obviously are playable, and even the free to play folks can eventually get hold of them all. But they do have to achieve things in game to unlock the ability to play as all those classes. So they'll start off with access to 6, and they'll unlock another 6 through gameplay achievement. And they might get lazy and just go buy an NFT version of the class they really like. But definitely, if they want like a particular race, they're going to have to come and get the NFTs. So that's sort of the primary sort of scarcity value of the adventure NFTs, is that those races, which do have statistical differences to the others, as well as the cosmetic, those races are only ever going to be those 7,500.
that's really good. And what we spoke yesterday, did you want to explain about how, like, all your NFTs will come to life and stuff like that? Because that's really good. That was.
Yeah, so at the moment, folks can see my profile picture is like this very retro pixel art dude, and that's how the collection looks right now. We sort of launched the collection in the middle of the pixel art meta, so we sort of played into that and gave people what they wanted, which was really funky animated pixel art. And there's a huge amount of variety in that pixel art. So many different skins and all the races and all the classes. So it was, just for pixel art, an impressive collection at the time. But then, we're making a 3D game, and you can see from the game footage, we've got the 3D characters, and we went and spared no expense replicating every little detail of those pixel art characters. So every piece of armor, every racial skin, every class, they're all there, and we've been crafting them, molding them, texturing them in painstaking detail in 3D. So the whole collection will be switching over to detailed, high fidelity 3D models. sometime before launch. We're actually all but done. I think it was just a couple of the mech race to short heads that were left on the list. So we've actually modeled everything else. And I think one or two of the legendary weapons as well we were waiting on. So we're like 95% there. So I wouldn't be surprised if that occurs, within a month or so.
No way. So more or less you're ready to go, aren't you? So is the play test obviously, people's got to expect some sort of bugs and stuff like that. It happens everywhere. Is it more for like testing the servers and stuff like that, the play test, or
Yeah,
what?
it's both, like, it's infrastructure testing for us. So it is a play test. Do expect something to explode at some point. Like that's what happens with your first play test. But it's also for us to get some feedback on combat balancing in our combat system, because we have like a decent pool of play testers, but it's often not until you put something to the general public that you find, like, most people say, oh, that was way too hard, or that was way too easy, or this particular enemy was really annoying, or this particular part of the level was really stupid. You want to hear those kind of design comments. So we do have like a formal feedback form in the feedback channel on our Discord, and we'd love people to fill that out. And that's pretty comprehensive. We take that really seriously. We already talk to people a heck of a lot in chat, but this is going to be a really, really valuable tuning sort of exercise for us. We want to like optimize this thing so that when we do go to that big public launch and we do spend the money on the streamers or whatever it is to get out the initial word to the Web 2 audiences, we want the game by then to just be like perfect in terms of the balance and the enjoyment. So you guys, by jumping in now and sort of playing for free, are basically helping us, polish this thing off and get it super, super stable and shiny so that it goes sort of huge when we do that full launch.
Yeah, amazing. I'm just gonna. Dan's asked, can you just touch on lands a bit more? How will the land sale work and what the benefits and stuff?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, a lot of NFT gaming projects have like a thing they'll call land. We have a thing we call a prospecting deed, which is basically the rights to extract the resources on a particular area of the overworld. So like our land, you see the segment that it corresponds to in the sort of overworld map that people run around. And what that means is if you own the prospecting deed and another player goes into that area and starts harvesting resources, chopping down trees, mining, fishing, whatever, you get to tax them a little piece. And you get bonuses for adjacency and those sorts of things. And those are NFTs. They will be airdropped, and the price for those is in a thing called Chronos. So this is a ERC20 that the adventurer NFTs passively produce. So some folks have been holding our adventurer NFTs for 2 years, and they've accumulated a huge amount of Chronos. Others are trading their Chronos. If you buy an NFT today, you can just immediately start accumulating Chronos. You don't even have to stake or take any action. We'll be setting the price in a certain amount of Chronos, probably in the thousands, to get a land NFT. And there'll be just 500 of them. So these prospecting Ds, these land NFTs, there's just 500. So they are real sort of whale meat, and we've always been pretty clear about that. But I don't think they'll be minting out straight away. We'll be setting that Chronos price pretty high. So expect to see people sort of throwing around or trading their Chronos probably before and shortly after the minting opens for that. And it will probably be quite a sort of slow mint. We want it to maybe mint over something like a week, so folks have time to like trade their Chronos with each other if they want to. Everyone ends up with land. What's the use? It's like not just that you get to tax other players with in-game resources, but you also get extra votes in governance. So you can start to sway those, key trading company votes in terms of, are we going to turn on the forge? Are we going to attack this other trading company? And you get a sweet title. You get a prospecting baron title, which everyone will see you as in game. So those are just some of the fun bits. There'll obviously be more categories of NFT we bring out in future as well. Quite likely player housing in the form of airships, again, if things do well.
Yeah, sounds really good. Really good. Another thing I was going to ask, is you get like for the play tests and stuff, are you going to have any like like bug bounties and stuff like that? Like, can people earn any NFTs, or will there be any incentives for play testing? Someone's asked.
Yeah, for sure. So the playtesters who are also holders who defeat the boss will receive an exclusive armor set. So a limited edition NFT armor set called the Meme Masters armor set, which sort of looks a bit like a Pepe Ninja costume. A bit of a hats off to Pepe. And we'll probably also give away a couple to folks with the best screenshots. We'll run like a little bit of a screenshot competition. As for actual bug bounties, maybe not this build, but probably a latter playtest when we're trying to get closer to perfection in terms of zero bugs. That's when we might start dropping NFTs for finding what should be hopefully by then a much smaller number of bugs. We're probably expecting in this playtest being our first one, there should be a decent number of bugs. But we've played enough that we know that you should be able to at least play through and enjoy yourself and get a good feel for the game regardless.
Yeah, great answer, mate. Great answer. Yeah, that's about it for the questions from the group. But yeah, I'm really excited to actually try the game myself. And what we'll do after, if you want to put a post out on your main social, I'll give it a retweet so people can get all the information for your Discord, or if you want to send me a tweet to put out with all your links about the playtests and stuff, so people that are listening can jump in tomorrow.
Yeah, for sure, we can do that.
Yeah, it's been amazing. It's really good AMA. You've really sold it well, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how you progress, mate. To be honest, but do you want to say anything else before we call it a day?
No, just to sort of thank everyone for coming, having a listen. If you think we're talking crazy, or you think we're talking sense, do jump into our Discord and sort of let us know. It's always pretty interesting the amount of wisdom we pick up from the community. I've learned a lot of things about what we could be doing better. Great suggestions we get from our community. So if you're listening and you hear something you really like or something you can do better, please do jump on our Discord and just have a chat to us. We're always sort of chilling in there. I chat to people in Gen Chat all the time. So let us know. And yeah, if you like what you see, if the teasers look good to you, then please play the playtest as well, and let us know what you think of that as well.
Amazing, mate. And what we'll do after the playtest, if you want to jump on another AMA, so you can like update people with what's going on next and stuff like that. Obviously, we'll stay in touch now anyway. But yeah, it's been a pleasure to have you, mate, and thank you to everyone that's joined.
Yeah, thanks everyone, and we'll see you on the land of terror, hopefully.
Yeah, 100%. Have a great weekend. See you in a bit,
Bye.
mate.
This space was downloaded via spacesdown.com. Visit to download your spaces today.